when I think of 3-note voicings, of course, like 1, 3, and 5 really come to mind. And like if you arpeggiate that out, it's kind of this sound, like. Very simple sound. And for me, the 5 in that is probably the least defining characteristic of those 3 notes. Because it's like the root gives you the root. It's like that's your ground, that's your context. The 3rd gives you a lot of info about the function. And the 5th, it's almost like adding flour to like a sauce or something. It just thickens it up. It doesn't really tell you much on its own. That's why, like, 1 and 5, it can be major and minor. You can, punk rock, it's like you can just move it all around and kind of leave the specific harmony up for interpretation. What I like to do is to try to replace the 5 with something like a 4. And that gives you a really cool sound. That sounds good with a little more reverb. Added in the 5 in there for a second, but where this, just alone, that's a really fun line. Just it helps you move from point A to point B really quickly. You can finger it a couple different ways like that. You can do some like fun stuff like that, but when you turn it into triads, triad not meaning 1, 3, and 5, but triad just being 3 notes, you can't really do a chord starting on the root down that low. But as soon as you start on the 3rd, you get this 3, 4, 1 structure, which I think sounds sick. Because you get this half step, it's a little gnarly down this low. When you use it up higher, it's a little more practical. You get this kind of sound. And then if we go through the inversions of that, taking the bottom note, throwing it up top, take the 3, put it up here, we get this kind of like major 7, like almost like a C major 7, like a 1, 5, and 3. Or if you think about it in G, it's the 4, the 1, and the 3. And then you get this sussy sound, the 1, 3, 4, the one that we couldn't play down this low. And then you get the 3, 4, 1 again. Now each of these little cells you can move around diatonically. This one you might recognize if you've gone through and learned your drop 2 voicings as like a first inversion major 7 drop 2 voicing built on the 1, 3, 5, 7 chord shape. And you can move this around, as long as you're keeping in mind the scale degrees. That's the biggest thing to hold on to with this, because you have the 3, the 7, 3, 7, 1, 5, flat 3, flat 7, 1, 5. This is your D minor 7, E minor 7 to F major 7. You get the dominant shape, but you can also just do that with the 3 notes. It's kind of a little more like, I don't know if you guys have ever listened to Tim Miller. I feel like he always uses like these crazy, like with some crazy drum and bass thing under it, like. And you can use this on, you do it on the different string sets. I actually did G dominant, but it's super fun. And it's great because you can use these as like little cells when you're soloing. Get like cool. You can use it in a lot of different ways. But also my other favorite out of those, because this one's a little boring, just to be honest. It just sounds like a major 7 voicing, but this kind of like add 4 sound that you get from the same cell. Actually, let me do it in G. cool. I mean, you kind of, it's almost like Panama, like that, rest in peace. But it's kind of taking that cell. This one might be a little weird if you play it all at the same time. A lot of times these like more creative, non-conventional kind of chords, you kind of have to use with a little more responsibility. You can't just play the whole, I'm going to play all 4 notes or all 3 notes when there's more tensions. Sometimes you have to kind of approach it like a pianist, because the big difference between guitar and piano is that when pianists play voicings, they don't necessarily play them bottom to top, always, or top to bottom. It's not always, they might go, and it's like almost like in between like a little melodic fragment and a chord. And this can sometimes like let you let the notes kind of speak a little clearer. If you are playing this voicing that we were playing a second ago, this 3-4-1 shape in G, you can do that 6 and then add in that tension, or and then it can sometimes work a little bit better. So you can do this with different cells. I think it's really fun. You can kind of just, experiment. Just like you write down 3 random notes out of the major scale. Like, oh, let's do the 1, the 4, and the 7. Okay, so that gives us like fourths. Does not work very well down low. But like up high, all of a sudden it's a little more clear. Pretty sick. And then you have the inversions with that. Like you can go, okay. Or I guess it'd be. That one's weird. What would be this? Gets a little gnarly there, And the thing to keep in mind with all these is that like you're just generating these chords from pretty much an algorithm. Like choose 3 notes, do the inversions in the different areas of the neck. So there might be some that like don't work as well. There's some that might get you fired from your gig if you play them. So use them responsibly.